Scott Russell, Global Freedom Movement. The amazing thing about globalism and good and bad, let's call it the battle of good and evil, there's really, in my experience, there's a journey of the polarizing. Sometimes we can be like, gee, why isn't God doing something? How come this is still going ahead? And I think it's a time in the world where there's not going to be any fence sitting. Nobody's going to sit in the middle and be like, but it's going to be one or the other. People are going to be able to say, I'm for this agenda or I'm not. And in that polarizing, it's always the ones that are standing more for righteousness. It's biblical. The ones that stand for righteousness always seem like they're losing. And, I was reading my Psalms today, Psalm 14, and it's talking about how basically the evil has come all together and they've gloated almost and saying, oh, we've won. We're going to eat this up like we're eating bread. These people are done. We're in charge. And it's like God goes on and then he says, you know what? I'm going to let them do what they do. And then he says, and then I'm going to step in. And when you get God ticked, that's when you start to realize people have said, oh, there is no God. Okay, yeah, good luck with that one. No, what you're really saying is there's no God that you can control. God that doesn't do what you tell him to do. There's a God. And there's no better path than the one that these people are on to come face to face with that fact. And I think that ultimately God steps in and says, their wisdom I'm not interested in. I'm not interested in your wisdom. I'm going to speak. And when he speaks, things happen. The captives are restored. And I think that's when restoration comes and life comes. Maybe not to everybody, but in everything, but in the people that are of an open heart, the people that are saying yes. And so I just want to be that voice that says, yes, we are in for some troubling times, and we can look and question and say, why are they going ahead? How can they do this? If there's a God, how can that happen? No, it can happen because God's saying, no, they are proving that they're trying to say they are God. And God just says, you think you're in charge. You live your control. How many in our situations, he goes, you live what you think's best for your situation and see where it gets you. And when you finally get to a point where you realize, man, I can't do this anymore. What have I done? And the funny thing about it, when we get self-righteous is we're faced with two options. When we're wrong in that, is to look and say, well, I've done wrong. Humble ourselves and say, please forgive me. And it's amazing the beautiful people that'll bring to your life. And the ones that aren't beautiful, it'll push away. Or we go in harder. No, I'm going to prove I'm right. Like I've talked about with lies. And these globalists, they're going in harder to prove they're right. But don't be worried about it. God's not mocked. It's going to work out. Be at peace. Be at rest. Just continue to prepare and continue to do things that are going to bring safety and security to you and your family. And there's no natural answer. You can't store enough food for what's about to happen. But I tell you what, the spirit of community, that's where we live. In the Bible they call it koinonia. Fellowship, spiritual community. Not doing deals, but just coming together and say, wow, when I cut, you bleed. When you cut, I bleed. Not because we've tried to do that, there's just a connection. Let God be that connection and let him bring you to who needs to be in your life. God bless you. Keep going.